I do know that obviously Giant Size X-Men started with Len Wein, and I know you were. And again, please correct me, Chris. Were you working under Len at that time? I mean, how did you get the gig after the initial reintroduction of the X-Men?
Working under Len.
Well, you know what I mean.
I
I don't know what you mean, Joe.
Well, the interesting thing was,
Sword of Omens, come to my hand. I, Lion-O, command it. Thundercats, ho! And you're watching the Dorkening.
back in ancient history, when I first came to work for Marvel as a gopher. They are now called interns, but back then we were gophers because and this is when the bullpen was John Romita Sr., Herb Trimpe, Marie Severin, and Frank Giacoia, 3 artists and an inker. And Marvel was not as substantial as it is today. And it was really, really cool. And Roy Thomas and Neal Adams were doing the Phoenix Saga, were doing the Sentinels. And they were trying to figure out how to end the series, that arc.
Yeah.
And this is when I made a suggestion that, the theory is that all evolution is provoked by solar radiation. So if you're talking to the Sentinels logically, you would say you want to get rid of mutation, you obviously have to get rid of the sun. And so Neal ends up drawing this beautiful full-page splash of the sun and the Sentinels pouring into it. So I guess you could say that the spring of 1969 was my first contribution to the X canon. So move ahead 5 years, 5.5 years, I'm associate editor at Marvel Comics, working for Len Wein as editor-in-chief. Len Wein and Dave Cockrum are working on Giant Size X-Men #1, which was the idea of rebooting the team, and Stan's idea was that since, rather than just bring the original 5, how should we put it, white people,
Yeah.
to get, meaning no disrespect to all you minority white people out here. No, Stan figured we want to try and sell this to international markets, so let's get some different people in. So suddenly we have, oh look, a Canadian. Yes, definitely. Not, an indigenous character, a Canadian, a German, an African. What's his face from Japan?
Sunfire.
Well, he wasn't mine, so the heck with him.
I'm hip.
So basically, we create all of them, and we're off and running. And at the end of Giant Size #1, Angel asked the obvious question: what are we going to do with 13 X-Men? Well, we'll find out next issue. But the punchline was Len couldn't figure out how to get rid of Krakoa. And I couldn't help myself because I've been sneaking into Len's office at that point for 2 months watching Dave Cockrum draw the book because it was effing beautiful.
Sure.
And so I said, well, all an island is a really big mountain. You've got 13 X-Men, for gosh sakes. Why don't you just give the mountain a buzz cut, and remove everything that's above the water and let the rotation of the Earth do the rest, neutralize gravity around it. And, you wait 5 minutes and he's already like 1,000 feet up, and oddly enough, islands can't grab for, help. So that's what they did. They cut off the top of the island, and the Earth kept orbiting and spinning on its axis and orbiting around the sun, and it left him behind. And I thought, thank God we've gotten rid of that stupid island. We'll never see it again.
Yeah, whatever happened to Krakow?
Don't get me started.
Yeah, don't ask.
God, Chris, how many
So
stories did they reverse of yours? And we'll get to them later. Where, hey, guess who we're bringing back and reviving? But I don't mean to interrupt you, please.
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, I know.
But anyway, the point, then Len decided after that experience he'd had enough of being editor-in-chief, and and he was going to go freelance. And like all editors in chief going freelance, he got his pick of major books. Jerry Conway, for example, walked out with 17 titles.
Wow.
I exaggerate, but not by much.
Okay.
And Len basically took 4 monthly titles. But Len, unlike many other writers, knew his limitations, and while he could do 4 monthly titles, he could not do 4 1/4 monthly titles, X-Men being bi-monthly,
Yes.
but a giant size bi-monthly. So he had to give up something, so he decided to give up X-Men. And since my desk was right outside his office, I tackled him. I said, I want this fucking book. Sorry, I want this book. Because the opportunity to work with Dave Cockrum was phenomenal, and these characters were beautiful, and nothing whatsoever had been established about them other than their existence. And I thought it would be fun. And Len, without thinking twice, because I was like pounding his head into the floor, said, whatever. And that was it. So, none of us thought it was going to last. I mean, we figured, maybe we'd get to issue 100. 105. Maybe
Yeah, you started in the 90s, obviously, right?
We picked up where we left off with issue 94.
There you go. Yeah.
And issue 94 would pick up where the giant size left off, which was, the problem was Dave was already 2/3 halfway drawn with giant size 2. Marvel had also decided they weren't going to do giant sizes anymore, so it was a bi-monthly title now. And we made it a bi-monthly, and the rest, as they say, is history.
Indeed, and 17-year run, this thing that they thought might only last 6 issues. It's hard to imagine for younger readers that X-Men was such a low seller, as Chris just described. I mean, they were doing reprints for several years after Kree Skrull War, right?
Well, no, the thing was that Marvel wasn't, because the reporting was so exciting back in 1969. Marvel, the minute Neal's issues hit the stands, the sales went up, and they kept going up. Marvel didn't find out about it till 9 months later.
Right.
Yeah.
At which time the book had been canceled. Neal had gone back to DC, signed a contract there. So there Marvel was in the fall of 69 with a potential bestseller and no one to do it. So they said, we'll just make it a
Reprint book.
Reprint.
Yeah.
And take a few years to make up our mind.
Again, this is a pre-internet world, so as Chris was just describing, getting literally the newsstand sales back was always really slow.